Hey there, you guys. So, one of the most critically acclaimed games of 2025 was Split Fiction. And this is a game that I definitely wanted to make sure I played and completed. I was a big fan of It Takes Two. Big fan of what Hazelight is doing with their multiplayer games. And overall, I feel like this is a game that tons of people had great things to say about it, but nobody praised it as much, I think, as we praised It Takes Two. So I gotta know. It kind of made me hesitant on jumping into this one. One, I really did not like the narrative of It Takes Two. It was very off-putting. It was hard to complete because of it. And a lot of what I heard was the same, that the narrative of Split Fiction was not that great and that it just takes away from the experience. With all that being said, though, it is Hazelight, and I'm familiar with a lot of the really cool things that they do with the co-op style of games that they make. So I wanted to make sure I went through Split Fiction. Um, so after buying the game, I had to find someone to play the game with. Um, in this specific situation, I chose someone that isn't really good at games. They don't really play games. They're not used to games. So I kind of wanted to see how friendly this game is to non-gamers, because I think that's kind of always like the pitch, right? Like you can always find another gamer to play this with, like someone who's like good at games, and I think it'll widely change the experience. And in this review, I kind of just want to highlight my experience with the game, all the things I liked, all the things I didn't like, and somewhat of their point of view as well. I think whenever we kind of have like partners or family members that don't really play games, I think they're always like questioning why we enjoy this medium so much, and it is always kind of hard to explain to someone who doesn't play games why this media is so special. Like, obviously there's things like narrative, right? And we can do things like adapt games into movies or TV shows or books or whatever, and like they can get the narrative part. But there's something that just the narrative is missing, and it's that interconnected, gameplay loop that kind of like either goes super well hand in hand with the narrative or makes things more engaging, makes things more, cinematic. It's this level of kind of controlling and being a part of the narrative. And I think that's one of those type of things that off rip, Split Fiction does really, really good of kind of hand walking people into this game, right? The first couple sections of this game are very rudimentary, basic. If you've been gaming for any period of time, you know the basics, right? You know how to jump, you know how to platform, you understand, physics of games, you understand a lot of these things. So there's things that off rip I knew how to sprint, I knew how to jump, I knew how to wall run. I've played Uncharted before. So it's just a lot of what this game is doing is forcing two people um to one work together, right? That's what Hazelight does. That's what we did really good with It Takes Two. But a lot of I think what Hazelight does is it really showcases a lot of the really cool things that gaming can do, not just from hey, I can run and shoot, or hey, I can attack things and stuff like that. Like, and again, that's one of the things that I really really appreciated this game off rip was the person I was playing the game with understands that people play games, but they don't understand, I guess, why. And throughout playing Split Fiction, they were just obsessed. Like, there's that fun. I saw them go through like the anger of not being able to accomplish things and the satisfaction of when they did finally accomplish it. That level of like gratification that is kind of unmatched in anything else, right? If you watch a movie and you get a story from a movie, there's nothing there's nothing that's asking of you except you to pay attention a little bit, right? But movies aren't really asking you anything. Same thing with TV shows, and same thing with any other medium, really. They don't really ask anything of you. Games, on the other hand, you have to kind of pay some type of admission, whether it's, experience in this type of genre, et cetera, et cetera. And after paying that admission, there's such a high ceiling of gratification that nothing else matches. And Split Fiction has that, you know, it does that to the T. It does this great thing of really, really showcasing video games in a way that's digestible and fun and interactive for everybody. Playing this game, it doesn't matter how good I am at games. It doesn't matter how inexperienced someone else is at this game. This game forces you to work well blend together. And by the end of it, there's definitely moments where I felt like we were just so in sync that it was kind of crazy. It kind of felt like I didn't have to wait for the other player. They learned how to play games after this point. And this is like, I guess, the best thing that Split Fiction does is it's that gateway door, it's that, you know, entryway into video games. But it not just in a way that like, oh, I can have someone play Mario Bros and teach them platforming. Like no, like this game goes through all spectrums, whether it's like 2D to 3D, platforming, action adventure. Like it kind of hits this wide spectrum of what games are and what games could be, and it does it in such a fun and engaging way that's not boring for someone who's too experienced or too hard for someone that's not inexperienced. So it's this really really creative thing that they did in this world that they created and these levels that they created, that no matter your skill level, you're gonna find this game really really engaging. And honestly, this is one of those like I don't even want to say this was just like a great game. This was an experience, to be honest. Like this was such an experience that I think everyone needs to try. And I think if you're turned off by like the narrative of Hazelight Studios games, like believe me, this story is not that great. This narrative isn't the best narrative in the world. It's very very on the nose with its writing. Um, a lot of the characters aren't like, they're not the greatest characters in the world. With that being said, I mean, like, they're serviceable. The story is serviceable. The story puts you, like, forces you to be in these situations, and the situations are the point of the game. I don't like the narrative is just why we're kind of here to play the game. And I think that also makes it more digestible for non-gamers, people who are used to, hey, if I'm doing this, it has to be for a reason. And the narrative is, I think they're more for them than for us who are gamers, right? Like I've played Mario, I never cared about the story of Mario. I never cared about the story of a lot of games, right? If a game has a great story, that's awesome. But I don't think a game needs a story. And I think, a lot of times what Hazelight does is they make these games that honestly are probably better off without the story. But I think the story makes the game more digestible for people who need that, who need a reason for why they're in this world. So off rip, I just want to say if you're you know if you're turned off because it's a Hazelight Studio narrative, like definitely that's probably gonna, if that's your deal breaker, that's gonna be a deal breaker here. I'm gonna be honest. With that being said, if you can stomach it a little bit, it's really good. Like this is probably some of the best gameplay gaming has to offer in 2025. And it's definitely one of the funnest experiences to share with someone else. I think this is one of those type of games that I implore you to pick someone that you really, really, really want to spend this time with and show your love of gaming to. Whether it's your kids, whether it's your partner, even your parents, something like that, right? Personally, for me, that's what made this game more of a masterpiece than it probably should be. Like, obviously a lot of the stuff that they're doing gameplay wise is amazing. It's top tier. It's some of the best gameplay in the industry, to be honest with you. Some of the best platforming I've played. It's some of the best and creative uses of, the split screen co-op. Especially towards the end of the game, they get really, really creative. They get really, really insane with the ideas that they're doing. Um, it's very like breaking the fourth wall, very meta, very cool, and like, it's one of those type of things that can only happen in a game. It only happen to that level too. Like, if this was a movie or a book, it just wouldn't hit nearly as hard as it does. But Hazelight and the developers over there, they understand this medium to the T, to the point of like they understand what makes this medium so unique and so special, and why video games honestly is, in my opinion, the highest form of art. I think video games proves that art at its finest is in video games. And that's either it's narrative wise, either it's gameplay wise, it's so interactive, it's so engaging. There's nothing else that can keep me this, I think, hooked and feel like I'm just accomplishing so much. And that's one of the type of things that Sometimes when I spend a lot of times playing games, I always kind of maybe sometimes I feel kind of bad. Sometimes I feel like, oh damn, like what is this for? That's XYZ. But just kind of seeing, you know, the other player enjoy games as much, and finally understand and finally click. And after this experience, like asking questions like, what game should we play next? What other games are there that are similar? And it sucks that I'm gonna be honest. This is peak of what split co-op could be. I don't think there's any other game that done this to this degree this well. And I think again that's why Hazelight is one of the most renowned studios out there right now. I think they're a precious gem that should continue making games for as long as they want to. I'm hoping other companies kind of like look at what's going on here and try their best to emulate it. Not emulate it and like just copy what Hazelight is doing, but get creative with it. Get creative with this medium. And it's hard, especially in 2025 or 2026, moving forward from this point on, to do something that's not been done in games, that is unique, that is different. And yeah, I think a lot of people poo-pooed Split Fiction because the writing sucks. And I'm gonna tell you, yes, the writing sucks. But the creativity that's going on in the gameplay of this game is almost unmatched. And I'm kind of a little upset that Split Fiction didn't get more love and more praise. And yes, it has a really, really high like Metacritic score, and like obviously it's beloved by a lot of people. But it definitely deserves a whole lot more love, to be honest with you. Like again, just this is an experience that I think I'm always gonna remember. And you remember that in gaming. You remember those moments that kind of can't be replicated. Playing this game for the first time with someone who isn't used to being games and seeing their eyes and their brain finally connect to video games for the very first time is something special. It's something that can never be taken away from any of us. It's something that bonds us more. It's like a shared experience, a shared memory. It's one of those type of things that it almost sucks that it can't be replicated again. Like you know it when you feel it. But I knew by the time we completed this game that we weren't gonna get that feeling again, not for a while at least. And the more we kind of look at other games in the same nature, like even It Takes Two. If I was to go back and play It Takes Two again, it just wouldn't hit the same way. Um, if we were to talk about like specifics, what this game does, poorly, I think um as much fun as this game was to kind of watch each other like you know play our part and connect and stuff like that. I think there was parts that are a little unbalanced. I think there's parts that were definitely easier for me that were harder for them, not necessarily because of skill, just because of like our part to play. I think there's definitely parts where one of us is carrying the other person a little bit more, whether it's our unique abilities or skills or whatever. So I think that is kind of the struggle. With that being said, like I understand how hard it is to come up with these ideas and make them not just rewarding and challenging, but fun and engaging. I think they do creative ways with playing with, like perspective, playing with what one person's seeing and what the other person's seeing. And yeah, like sometimes I have to look at the other person's screen to like see what they're seeing to better understand. And then there's other points where things are happening so fast that you can't. You just kind of have to go. And at a certain point, um, at the at a certain point, I just had to put trust in the other player to carry their part. Like I couldn't help them because I'm so busy on what I'm doing, and things are happening so fast on my screen that I need to just trust that they can handle their part. And sure enough, they could, and they were lock in step with me. And that's one of those things that again this game is doing so special. It's not just a gateway or anything like that. Like those stuff are great and that stuff is amazing, but it's definitely like I don't know, at least from what I experienced, you're slowly bonding with the other player to the point where you're moving in such synchronicity that it almost feels like there's no way that this game wasn't tailored for that. There's no way this game wasn't trying to funnel you together in this way where by the end of this, you don't necessarily feel like you're playing a split screen co-op game. You kind of just feel like you're playing one game connected together, and it's just so crazy and so cool. Not to mention, again, I'm not gonna spoil too much or anything like that, but the final act of this game, the final chapter, that final boss fight is just probably one of the craziest and coolest things I've seen in gaming in forever. And every time I hear like what Joseph Ferris on interviews, and he's one cocky guy, he's very full of himself, and a lot of times he says, "Wow, you're gonna be blown away by what's going on." And every time I hear him say stuff like that, I'm like, okay, I roll. But then when you play the game and like, gosh darn it, like he lived up to everything that he wanted to do. Split Fiction, if you guys were on the fence about playing Split Fiction, you should, like, this is a must. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's certain games that are a must you need to play, and this is the one. If you didn't like It Takes Two, I think Split Fiction honestly is better than It Takes Two. So if you didn't like It Takes Two, Split Fiction is definitely better. I think so. A lot of the worlds, the gimmicks, everything I think is a lot more fun. I think it's a lot more user friendly. And I think it's just the highs are so much higher and the lows aren't as low. I think if I was to want something else from Hazelight, I'm gonna be honest, I would like to see what they do with a game where it's just the gimmicks, no narrative. To be honest, I think if I was to replay this game, Split Fiction, it would have to be with someone who is very, very skilled at games. That way I can kind of see how fast we could speedrun it. I think that's the next, like, if I was to get any kind of replay out of this, that kind of be it. Um, yeah, man, those are my thoughts of Split Fiction. I think this game was just very, very unique, very, very creative. I can't wait to see what else Hazelight does after this. I can't wait to see other people, like reactions to them playing this game, like streamers or just other content creators that are like haven't really. Again, this is one of those I didn't really check out too much. I just kind of knew what I know, right? I knew what I knew from Hazelight, and I knew that people said it was a great game, but I didn't really know exactly what I was walking into, to be honest with you. Um, but yeah, man, like I don't think I've beaten a game faster. I think it took me like 2 days to beat this game. Like max maybe like 8 hours. Like we ran through this game so quickly and it was so fun. There's a lot of side quests that we did a couple of them, but I'm gonna be honest, they were a little higher skilled typically, where it kind of just like showcased the difference in our skills. I think maybe if we were to like run through it again and do the side quest, it'd be easier at this point. But yeah, definitely, I don't know, kind of not necessarily for me, but kind of like took away some of the fun of us not really being at the same skill level. And like it just kind of highlighted a lot more in the side quests. But yeah, I'm gonna end the video there. If you guys like the video, let me know down below. Subscribe, like all that kind of stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next one.